This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of their affiliated organizations.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Ready to Connect. I'm Lisa.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Ryan.
And this week we're going to do part 2 of the MidAtlantic states for our Haunted America series. I'm very excited to share what I found out in the Maryland, D.C. area. And I know Heather took Delaware, and Ryan, you did a little bit in the Virginia, West Virginia area. But before we start, your all weekend went, but I was basically snowed in from the big storm.
Snowed in.
And I spent my time doing my favorite thing, reading.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Nice.
That's how I spent my time, reading and basically texting with family and friends. How are you doing? Everybody okay? You know, worried about, we have one family member that had to work at the hospital and she had to drive back through the height of that snowstorm, like 7, 8 o'clock at night to get home. So couldn't really rest easy until, your family members safe at home. Yeah. That's how I spent my weekend. How was yours? Any different, Ryan?
Well, not really. Snowed in as well. It was at least 16 inches of snow that we got, 16, 17. But yeah, it's been fun, shoveling and getting the car out. And then, but, we did do something fun. So my roommate, she recently bought Watson, her dog, some buttons to be able to talk. And so we've been teaching him how to say outside and, to touch it to go outside. Because before that, he's just been scratching at the door, scratching at the wall. Like, we're like, okay, at least this is a solution. He did it twice. Other than that, I think he thinks that we're just pressing it to be able to open the door. But he does look at it. He'll go over, he'll nudge it. I think it just might be a weird feeling for him to actually press it. So... But he did do it twice so far, so proud of him for that.
It won't take long. You just have to keep at it. Of course, for those communication buttons, because I have them for my cats. Mm-hmm. Those communication buttons, when they press them, you're supposed to do what they say. Yes. For them to put the 1 and 2 together, as far as those, those buttons make the human do something for them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget when we got the buttons and I was teaching them. They say to start with something that's not a treat.
Oh, there you go.
So we started with outside as well, because our cats don't go outside. So when they do, it's quite the production of having to get them in their harness and blah, blah, blah. And I remember teaching them outside and got to do it when they say, well, we had done it during the summer and the button was right by the sliders that go out towards our pool. And my husband and I just got into the pool to kind of like just float around. And what do I hear? Outside, the button outside. I'm like, oh. Gotta put them in the harness, gotta take them outside. Have the buttons, and for the most part, I mean, they do use them from time to time. For my FOMO cat, Mr. Odin, if he wants attention, he'll just lay across all of them and you'll hear play, treat, food, outside, brushing, all at once, which is just means pay attention to me, But yeah, they're fun to do. They really are fun to do.
Yeah, we were quite impressed because, he did it once, and, we praised him and everything, and then I think it was the other night, actually, it was like maybe 11:30 at night, I heard it, and I was like, am I hearing something, or did he actually do it? But no, he actually had to go outside. I was like, oh, wow, okay, good job, like, that was great.
Wow.
Yeah, so, but other than that, I think he's just watching us press it. I just think it's funny that we press it and then we open the door and it's like, here's the magic key to get outside.
Well, you're teaching them, Yeah. It's funny because sometimes I'll press the button if I want the cats to come running, and I usually press food or treat, and both of them show up immediately, immediately. They hear the button noise. But have you ever seen any of those videos online that show the buttons being used and these cats or dogs having fun conversations? It's fascinating.
It's incredible. Yes.
If you don't have an animal communicator in your back pocket like Heather to communicate for you, it's nice to get the buttons.
Right.
Anyway, how about you, Heather? Were you snowed in too?
Snowed in.
Yeah.
Yep. Took the time to just rest and relax.
There you go.
wasn't really on the top of my game. Wasn't feeling all that great. So it was nice that we were snowed in, so that way I could just not feel guilty for like not participating in society.
There you go. So, well, let's get right to our research and content for Haunted America, and we're going to start in the state of Delaware. What do you got for us, Heather?
Oh, super exciting. The Rockwood Museum. It's in Wilmington, Delaware. And as I was researching this, it was so incredible because, like, if you really immerse yourself as a psychic medium, you can listen to the other side. You can feel them, you can hear them. And when you're, as I'm doing research and looking up all these great states of ours, you can resonate with some of them. And the Rockwood Museum has over 35 different spirits. They actually, one of their biggest spirits that comes through is Mary Binghurst and a young boy named Eddie. And like, when people go in there, it's not just residual, it's actually intellectual. Like, they have recordings of music box self-playing. They have they do like, many investigators have gone here and they're using like the ghost box, which is like white noise in the background that produces, or it's like a radio noise in the background that produces words. And they have completely be able to get from the ghost boxes complete sentences from the different energies that reside here at the museum. So it's definitely one that's going to go on my bucket list because I love going to like intellectual hauntings if I ever get down to Delaware. Not sure why I would go to Delaware other than just to visit, but never really planned it. Like, yeah, let's go to Delaware, right?
It's a very large bridge that you have to go over.
Yeah, maybe that's why I haven't been to Delaware. It's a very large bridge. 8 bridges.
Yeah.
But as I was reading about the Rockwood Museum, like, there was so many experiences, not that I, just too many to write down, but every single spirit that I was reading about on the Rockwood Museum clearly was showing that some of them were residual. They were just passing by doing what they needed to do. But like, you could see in many different reports about this where there is an abundance of communication happening, whether it's through a squawk box or the digital boxes, or even just touching the EMF readers. I read one study where they were doing like we were doing with our Gregory over in the building, having them touch flashlights. The cold spots are not just like, the windows drafting. There's actual like accounted for where you're standing just randomly in a room and you actually can feel yourself get very cold and you can feel the room turn into a chill, which is usually, it's been documented that this is what ghosts do. This is what spirit does, is they take the thermal energy either from your body or from the room, and this is producing cold spots for them to walk through and interact with us. So I found that really great. Over 35 spirits. That's a haunting for sure. Yeah. So that was one thing that came up that it kind of got me going, like, all right, I don't, never really had a need to go to Delaware, but like looking up the whole Delaware quarter, there's some great stuff we can explore down there. And that was definitely one of the other one that I was looking up was fantastic as well. It's the governor's mansion in Woodburn Mansion, and it was a governor's mansion in Dover. And this too was like another really abundant of spirits coming through, including a man in a white wig. So normally we have the lady in blue or the lady in white, but today we have the man in the white wig. And I thought that was really funny. There's wine there, so there's you're able to go, and it appears that when wine is being served to the guests, that the man in the white wig will assist or come drink with you. And there are many accounts for like conscious appearances and awareness. There's a high awareness that he is in the room. So I found that really interesting, against the fact that every state seems to have a lady in blue, a lady in white. I found in Delaware, totally cool, the Amstel House in Newcastle. It's home to the lady in blue. I love it. Another lady and a little girl named Anna. So we have the lady in blue, and apparently the lady in blue and Anna, the child, will highly interact with you with objects if you bring them in, flashlights, making the flashlights, making the EMF readers go off. People have recorded that she completely, like the child completely interacts by pulling on clothes, and everybody has seen the lady in blue. So guess we're going to need to go meet the lady in blue, seeing how we got a lady in white, lady in blue.
Yeah.
And Lady in Green here in Connecticut. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So there was such a plethora of stories that were coming from Delaware. I found over 35 accounts of different haunted locations in Delaware. Looks like Delaware's got some great seething history when it comes to rooted ghosts and making an appearance, and more accounts of actual intellectual accounts of the ghost, where a lot of other states we've seen or that we're starting to research have more residuals. So very something going on down there in Delaware. I'm not sure if it's the water or what, but we got some movement down there where most of the hauntings that I researched do have repetitive claim of intellectual hauntings, which that's what I want to go visit. I think that's great. Like any chance we can interact and bring this forward to hear their message is a great story.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's fun. A lot of fun. Especially if Delaware, I
Yeah.
think, is a small enough state that you could probably visit all of them, in a day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, probably. And the
Yeah.
last one I wanted to talk about was Fort Delaware. Fort Delaware is also known as Pea Patch Island, and that is heavily reported of Confederate soldiers and prisoners as well. And the Fort Delaware, obviously being a fort, it does have lots of residual energy. It has lots of residual energy. But guess what Fort Delaware has? A lady in black.
Oh my goodness.
There you go.
Here at night or dead at night. Well, how would you know?
I know, right? How would you know? You'd have to like have big spotlights. But the lady in black tends to be this figure that appears down in, I guess, the dungeon section of Fort Delaware. And there's repetitive sightings. But most people who believe and can work with spirit or learning to work with spirit say that the lady in black is completely intelligent and she loves to have physical interactions, and she's also very responsive to voices. And I thought, wow, that's super cool, because sometimes when you're in the ghost situation, they're not always responding to what you want them to say. But apparently Lady in Black loves to have long conversations. It sounds like a dating app, right? Long conversations. Lady in Black living in a dungeon down in Delaware. Come see her.
Like Frank leather or something? I don't know. Black leather. Jeez.
Find it so fascinating that all these states that we're looking up, you were finding like the lady in blue, the lady in black, the lady in white, all these different kind of names that seem to be a common theme throughout the country. And I don't even think it's deliberate.
For sure. Lady in Black, it makes me wonder, are they seeing just a shadow, or are they actually seeing an apparition that's dressed in something black?
So both. There was accounts for a tall lady in a black dress, and then there's accounts for the black figure's shadow, which we all know black is the easiest color to see in the spirit world. Of course, sometimes that's taken in the wrong direction. People think because they're a black shadow that they're demonic, but nothing in this research supports the fact that this lady has any demonic tendencies. She's actually quite intellectual, and she loves to interact by voice. So I would say this is definitely a great one if you can get her on recordings and engage her into a conversation. They're definitely seeing her. I feel bad for her that she has to live down in the dungeon. I didn't find a lot of information why she lives down near the dungeon. That might be something to come in another time, if I can actually find like a good piece of written literature of why she resides down in the dungeon area.
She was put down there in light.
Could have. Yeah, I wasn't able to find any like conclusive information that specifically said, oh, she was a bad person, she got put there, or she was like the nurse that worked there and brought food or whatever, right? Like there's all kinds of accounts, but definitely something to keep looking into. I just found it absolutely fascinating that Delaware has the lady in black and the lady in blue and a little girl named Anna, and lots of phantom footsteps and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. And the white wig, right? You got to include wigs now. Like it's not just somebody in a dress, it's someone in a white wig.
Yeah, I wonder if other states have that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you get to the whole 13 original colonies, right, you're going to get these white wigs or people in wigs, you get to colonial times. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Okay.
because this is all based off of, Fort Delaware. I mean, that was part of the Civil War, right? That was Fort Delaware was definitely used in its heyday. It was probably one of the best, one of the heightened fortresses. But now to look back at it, it's like, wow, how primitive. So,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, any more from Delaware?
Oh, there's a lot. There was a lot. It was hard to like kind of without like going overboard, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Just different places like Cooch's Bridge in Newark, which was about a headless British soldier appearing in foggy nights. The story of that kind of reminded me a little bit of the Headless Horseman story of like in New
Hollow.
York.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, appearing in the foggy nights, searching for his head, and
And these stories,
ooh,
though, you get like an experience, like I was saying with back when we were doing the Amityville Horror, you get an experience and then you can maybe it gets extrapolated or exaggerated as the story keeps going on and
yeah.
this really creepy, spooky thing. Yeah. Interesting.
And every story I read about the Cooch's Bridge it was all residual, and it's always this action. He's looking for his head and with anybody, and it sounds a lot like the New York Sleepy Hollow story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, down there, Central Hotel, where it's definitely. Oh, this was fun. The Central Hotel, which is Dolly Spanker's, which is in Delaware City, is a reported story of a haunted, crotchety maid named Sandy from the 1800s. So not the lady in blue, not the lady in black, not a white wig, just a crotchety lady named Sandy. Poor Sandy. Somebody needs to send her some healing. But apparently Sandy truly enjoys, and she's from the 1800s, so clearly her mood is definitely reactive with probably some of the patrons that come into the Central Hotel, which was kind of fun to read about. Never quite heard it that way, the crotchety, poor crotchety Sandy.
Yeah, it's funny because you'll hear adjectives like grumpy, the grumpy ghost and things like that, but I don't think you hear crotchety too often.
Yeah, I haven't heard that word in a long time, actually.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
too funny though, but yeah, the crotchety lady, and then over on yonder, I would believe. I've never been to Delaware. The swamp trails at Looms Pond, which is in Bear, Delaware, and that actually has some terrifying kind of reports where people who go into these swamp trails are hearing people pleading and voices of like screaming, and apparently there have been runaway girls who have lost their life there, and it's claimed that when you're hiking, the hikers can hear the girls screaming, and it's classified as a residual,
that sounds
but it is also
ridiculous.
classified as a traumatic residual, which
Yeah.
is so sad because the trauma is actually it's classified as a traumatic residual because it's just constantly replaying the trauma. That energetic imprint can't be broke, and that's sad. That's sad. We hear a lot of stories of ghosts crossing over and, ghosts coming back and trying to give their messages so that they can be free. But when you pass in such a tragic way, gosh, breaks my heart for somebody that, to walk onto a trail and hear screaming. That's awful. but it's an energetic imprint, and all you can do is just give it blessings, and maybe a ghost hunter down in Delaware listening to this could go down and maybe place some coins, maybe some patron saint coins, or do some Reiki healing or some form of blessing. But because it's residual, I don't think it would clear. It's not intellectual, so it's just going to keep happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just like Delaware, the DC, Maryland area has a lot of different hauntings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. Well, I try to stay away from the ones that are sort of the more known about ones when I went to the DC, Maryland area. But before I go into that, anything else you wanted to share from Delaware?
No, I mean, again, there was such a plethora of information of like different haunted locations. Nothing else was really standing out. It kind of highlighted like, the big one, the lady in blue, the white the white wig. I thought that was really fun. Something I'm kind of going to make it a goal where like every state we look up, I'm going to try to find the lady in what color.
Yeah.
I would definitely like to check out this white wig, because apparently when you go to the Woodburn, the governor's mansion in Dover, like it's intelligent enough where he'll have a drink with you. So cheers to that, right?
That's
Toast.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So when I went to delve into Washington, D.C. and the Maryland area, I stayed away from some of the well-known reported hauntings. Obviously, our own White House has reported hauntings of particularly Abraham Lincoln outside the Lincoln bedroom. I think it's been witnessed or seen, I think even by one of the Reagan daughters at one point had a sighting of something like that. Even Eleanor Roosevelt has reported feeling a presence there. And of course, the other famous specter or spirit of the White House is Dolly Madison. Of course, as you remember, the Madisons were occupying the White House when it was burned down in the War of 1812. So you can understand how that could be part of the haunting. In fact, Dolly Madison is probably one of the more itinerant ghosts seen in multiple locations around DC, not just the White House. In fact, I followed her hauntings to find what's considered the most haunted house in DC, called the Octagon House. So if the idea of hearing invisible silks rustling, wildly swinging chandeliers, screams, and mysteriously disappearing footsteps in the dust intrigue you, then you'd want to go to the Octagon House in DC. And it's located on New York Avenue, 1799 New York Avenue in Northwest and Foggy Bottom of DC. And it itself is known to the residence of many different spirits, several of them. During the War of 1812, when the White House was burning, James and Dolly Madison were offered a temporary residence there in that big mansion. And so Dolly Madison is reputed to be one of the ghosts that haunt that location. So there you go.
Is she the lady in white or the lady in blue?
It's funny because I did see mention of a lady in white, but I didn't follow it. There is one in the Maryland area for sure. When I went to select a couple to talk about, and I didn't follow down the lady in white, forgetting that, we have all these different colored ladies to kind of look. But according to the local lore of that area, you can hear servant bells kind of randomly. And that gets attributed to the Octagon House's original owners of John and Ann. I think it's called Tayloe, Tayloe. They both died in the home, so it's perceived that the servant bells you hear them ringing are for their own servants, that the owners of the house ringing for their help. So that could be residual in itself. There is a very grand circular staircase at that home, and that staircase probably draws most of the paranormal activity that's in the house. So if you visit, your typical things like cold spots, uneasy feelings you can get while climbing those stairs. And some have even heard the screams, very piercing screams in that area, because one of the daughters actually fell to her death from the well. And sightings of her have been reported since at least 1908 on. So interesting. There's There was also a tale of one of the ghosts that haunt this mansion is that of a murdered gambler, someone who gambles, a gambler, who haunts the room he was shot in, according he was shot in, and soldiers in centuries old garb walking past visitors, flickering lights, doors mysteriously opening and closing, have also been part of this Octagon House, which now stands as a museum. So you could check it out for yourself because you can visit the Octagon House apparently, and it's considered one of the most haunted houses in DC. But if you go just an hour outside DC to Upper Marlboro, Maryland, it's about an hour outside of DC, you will find the Linville Manor, formerly known as the Bowie Johnson House. It sits on property back in the 1600s. It was a 200-acre plantation that was owned by John Smith, Captain John Smith. You know, back in history, he's the guy that supposedly saved Pocahontas back in the 1600s. So this plantation was owned by him. And of course, his plantation was housed to many, many slaves. So you have all of that trauma as part of this location too. But back in 1852, a manor was built on this property. It's now called the Linville Manor, and it's actually an Airbnb. It was bought back in 2018 by the owners Wynn Brewer and Josh Clark, and it's now an Airbnb, so you can go stay there. And when I was trying to find haunted locations, I ran across an article written, I think it was in, where is this, Washington? The Washington Times, maybe a Washington, D.C. paper, an article written by Natalie Compton. And during the pandemic, when we were allowed to kind of like go out and about again, I guess, but still during the pandemic, she went to stay one night at this Airbnb by herself. So she was a self-proclaimed non-believer, not scared by anything. So she spent the night alone in this what's considered the most haunted house in Maryland. And she left sort of kind of a believer. And she gives an account. It's a fascinating article. The article's title is called "As If a Pandemic Isn't Scary Enough, I Spent the Night Alone in a Haunted House." And it's written by Molly Compton. If you were to search it, you'd probably find it. And I think the Linville Manor itself has a link to this article. It's probably how I found it. And it's basically a timestamp recording of her stay there. And she was greeted by first of all, she said that this manor sits in like a neighborhood, suburban neighborhood. And she goes, if you were to look at all the houses to be able to pick out the one that's haunted, it'd be easy to find because it's the only one with a ginormous like lion head door knocker on it, you know?
So cool.
I know, right? So when she was greeted by the owners that gave her like a 3-hour tour of the house to tell her all the hauntings and paranormal activity that goes on. But apparently the owners, when they bought it, had their own experience pretty much right away by seeing figures walking in their property in the back, by seeing spirits. And apparently there's a tree back there that is known to be a portal. And I'm trying to see. Don't be a portal. See if I wrote down the type of tree it was. Or this article's in the Washington Post, by the way. I can't seem to find the type of the tree it was, but it's a type of portal, and it said if you touch it, you could feel the energy coming up through there. Yeah, the owners themselves had when they bought it, pretty much right away. They saw mysterious figures passing through the yard or in the hallways, furniture rearranging itself, and then hearing distinct voices, door handles rattling when no one else is home. And they report that the hour of 1:11 a.m., so 1:11 a.m., is when the onset of spiritual activity begins in that house, or actually where it ramps up, they should say. So it was interesting to read this article of this reporter and her accounting of staying there and what she was feeling and things that had happened that kind of corroborated some of the reports of other people staying there. But in this house itself, in the Linville Manor, it's funny because each room has a title to it. And there's a room called the non-believers bathroom. And apparently guests who do not believe in the supernatural they should not go into the pink bathroom because guests who do not believe the ghosts will lock them into the bathroom.
Oh.
Huh.
So,
Or
so
is this more just fear of getting locked into the flamingo 1970s pink bathroom?
I don't know. All I'm going to say is that the reporter, when she had to go to the bathroom, she didn't shut the door just in case. She didn't want to be locked in. I found that hilarious. Of course, if you're the only one in the house, you don't really need to shut the door to go to the bathroom. But anyway, but they have a non-believer bathroom. At 1:11 a.m., the onset of this spiritual activity, it is known for spirits to gather in the lounge. And you can hear unexplained crashes throughout the house, apparently. In the library, that's home to a few spirits, that room of the house. The late night guests will hear a sweeping sound, like someone's cleaning. And Watson would really like this room because it's inhabited by a child ghost named Lily, who actually really likes dogs.
Oh.
And of course, as we know, animals are very keen, have a keen awareness to spiritual energy, and will often, track it, follow it, that kind of thing. And speaking of animals, there is a cat that known as Shadow the cat. I had a cat once that we named Shadow, but
And
apparently,
now the cat is a shadow.
yeah, if there's of course there's a cemetery on the property, as there would be, but at the back cemetery, you will find a gravestone dedicated to Shadow the cat.
Hmm.
And Shadow the cat has been known to see roaming the premises still, whether outside or inside. So there you go. Your typical Shadow the cat, I imagine, is black. I didn't really pick up what type of cat, just that it roams. In the ballroom of this place, it's reported that you'll hear two men arguing in the ballroom. To me, that sounds like a residual kind of thing if you constantly hear the same arguing going on. And occasionally, a chair that sits in the corner of this ballroom will move to be in front of the double doors, like it's looking out, like someone's sitting there watching out the double doors.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. So that's moving stuff. There's a room called the conservatory, and apparently the conservatory, I think, is known to have most of the activity because the conservatory, now in the Airbnb, the conservatory is a bedroom that you can stay in. But it's reported having a male presence in that room. Many orbs have been filmed and photographed. And sometimes when people walk into this room, they feel like an unexplained pressure in their chest. And it's interesting because when she was getting the tour of the house by the owner, she felt this pressure. She goes, it was weird pressure on my chest. And I just thought maybe it was nerves of just being in a haunted house, anxiety kicking in. And then all of a sudden the owners talked about people who visit this room get this pressure in their chest. So my guess is that this male spirit had some sort of upper respiratory issue. And they're feeling that within them, like I would get, like the clairsentient. And then the Linville room, which is a bedroom you could stay in, is reported to have an angelic presence to it. And people who stay in that room wake up feeling revived and at peace. Of course, if they slept, they probably do feel that way, right? But it's interesting. The woman, when she was staying there, the reporter, she around 2:25 a.m. started hearing chimes from like a clock, like a clock chiming. And she thought it was the oddest time to have like tones going off at a clock. But then she also realized it's the first time her hearing anything. So when the owners came back the next day and were making her breakfast, must have been a bed and breakfast type thing. I don't know. She asked him about that. And he said there are absolutely no clocks in the house at all that will chime.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of gave her pause. And it's really interesting. And it's funny to read the article. I just had a chuckle to myself because as she's getting this tour, and she's hearing about these different things, what happens to fall on her arm, but like a chunky spider?
Oh.
Of course, the spider's going to fall on me, right?
Yeah. There you go.
She was brave enough to go out around midnight and touch the tree. And she said she just got so freaked out, she ran back to the house. She did report trying to go into the conservatory. She was going to spend the night in the conservatory, being the most haunted bedroom. And when she opened the door to go in, she kept hearing like crackling noises in there. And when she go in, something brushed her ankle or hit her ankle. And so she decided, no, I'm not staying in there. And she stayed in a bed. She slept fully clothed, ready to leave. For a non-believer and thinking it's all bunk, it's just funny how, either the whole idea can play on you, your paranoia a little bit. I mean, it's been reported and documented again and again by people who stay there, and you can go there. It is an Airbnb. I looked it up. I said, oh my God, if this doesn't reek of something that me and my friend would stay at just for the experience, right? So I went to go check it out and how much. It's probably over $500 a night to stay there. You can do paranormal investigations there. You can do a paranormal event if you want. So it's open up to all that stuff. So my guess is that you've got a mixture of intelligent and plus residual energy in there for sure. You know, if I'm going to walk into a room and I start to feel a presence as pressure in my chest, I'm picking up clairsentiently a spirit in there that's trying to connect with me, right? But if I'm hearing arguing in a ballroom and it's reported that you always hear this arguing, to me, that's more residual. So, yeah, I just found it really interesting. I would love to meet Shadow the cat. I would love to. We could go with Watson and see if he likes Lily. It's funny as we're saying
Maybe
that.
maybe your roommate Ryan will let us borrow Watson for a weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, probably, yeah.
It's funny as I'm talking about Shadow the cat, who's zooming around my house, but Odin, he's just zooming, running in his room. I don't know. I found it interesting. So yeah, I found the two most haunted houses, one in Maryland and one in DC, aside from the White House is, of course, known to have its hauntings there too. But yeah, there's a lot of places to visit in DC, Ford's Theater, a lot of places that were mentioned that you can go to. But I thought those were ones I haven't really heard before. And of course, I've heard of Dolly Madison. I mean, I think there's even one of their residences that I think she ended up living there until she died, one of the houses, and it's reported that she sits on the porch, Dolly Madison, and is just, pleasant, smiling at people, even when the house turned over to be like a place where you gamble or something like that. She was just very sweet. So, yeah, that was my delve and deep dive into that area of our country. Very fascinating, very fascinating. So, yeah.
Yeah, I seem to find DC, Virginia, West Virginia, Delaware, like that whole corner of the United States seems to have such a deep-seated history because of, just how time was back in the 1800s, 1700s, 1900s, right? It's fascinating. There's a lot of fascinating history around Gettysburg and how it spanned out into the next states and whatnot. So what did you find, Ryan? Did you find any ladies in Virginia?
Yeah. Any ladies?
Well, yep, yep. So for Virginia, I have my notes pulled up for West Virginia, but that's fine. I'll just go right to Virginia. So I went to.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go
No,
to West
that's
Virginia.
fine. No, we can do Virginia because I did find a lady there. So it's called Fairy Plantation House, and it's known to be haunted. It's widely reported to be haunted by around 11 distinct spirits, which
Wow.
I thought was wow, that it's incredible. I'd love to go see this and just interact with these spirits to see what's going on. Yes, it's
Absolutely.
tied to its long history as a plantation, ferry landing, courthouse site, and a private home. It said visitors, volunteers, and paranormal investigators have shared stories of apparitions, unexplained sounds, objects moving on their own, cold spots, lights turning on in rooms that are unoccupied. And here are some of the spirits that most people have experienced and talked about. There's a spirit named Henry, who is a former enslaved man whose spirit has been seen emerging from the basement and kneeling in one room. His presence was later connected to the discovery of a fireplace hidden behind a wall. Uh,
Oh,
so that's the place where he seemed focused on, they're thinking some unfinished task, like he just keeps focusing on that. So would that be residual if he's just
yeah.
okay?
If
That
it's
makes
happening
sense.
again and again, and he's kneeling down, it's sort of like the maid that is
Hmm.
at the Twain house that you see again and again doing the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, So that makes sense. I can just imagine what that's like to just all of a sudden see a man appear and kneeling down at the wall, but at least they found that there was a fireplace there. So that's
Yeah.
interesting. There's a young boy named Eric whose footprint and voice evidence have been reported. He is believed to have died after falling from a window. Toys and voices are sometimes heard moving or speaking when no one is around.
I
There's a
love
little.
that. I love when we go to a location and you can put a ball on the ground and they'll move the ball. Like
Oh,
that
that's
is
cool.
like the coolest thing. Whether you deliberately go to a haunted house or you're in an area that has intellectual energy, that's really cool that they were able to capture the toys interacting with the toys.
Right.
Electronic toys too. I know just in my own house, we had electronic toys that would go off and on when we had, people visiting. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I had that happen a lot when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
Toys would just randomly go off on their own. So I just figured it was the spirits.
Yep.
There's a little girl named Bessie McIntosh. I believe that's her last name. She's the daughter of the original owners. She passed away around the age of 5. Witnesses just describe seeing her, like running around. She has curls in her hair and like to say Mary Jane shoes. So I guess that's a distinctive shoe.
Yeah, a Mary Jane shoe is very distinctive. It's got the strap that goes across the foot. Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay. All right. I didn't know the exact name of that, but thank you for that. Her parents, Isabella and Charles McIntosh, they were a couple linked to the Civil War tragedy. Charles passed away from battle injuries, and his pregnant wife Isabella has been described in photos as a sad figure in blue. So I don't know if she's appearing. Maybe they're just seeing her in photos. But that was
Lady in
interesting.
blue.
Yeah. And then there's a lady in white. So there is
Of
a
course there
woman.
is.
Yeah. So there's a woman who reportedly let's see, a woman reportedly she's connected to a fall down the stairs. Wow, people are really falling out of this building. so,
Well, did you
so
see the dresses they had to wear? It's
I
kind of
can
hard not to
imagine.
trip on yourself.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, especially in that time period.
Very
Yeah.
true. Very true. I
Yeah.
trip on my own pants sometimes if they get too long. So, I can see it.
But sightings have been seen of her just roaming the halls and the grounds. And then lastly, there was shipwreck victims. So there's some souls, let's see, from the early 19th century. Shipwrecks near the ferry landing are said to be sometimes seen near the riverbanks. Um,
Oh, Fairy Plantation as in Ferry. My mind
yes.
immediately went to Fairy, Fairy Plantation. I'm
Oh,
like,
okay. Well, that's
okay.
interesting. Yes. Ferry
And
as
I
in
know that
ships.
fairy plantation is like dated back to like 1600s, like as early as 1600s with hauntings.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you were reading that too, Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah,
Ah,
absolutely.
that's a long time, 1600 to now, right? Like that's a long time for like so many layers of hauntings being
Hmm.
reported since as early as 1600 and like into the 1800s. There was reportings of like all these victims, so like
Hmm.
the fairy plantation is definitely rich with intellectual paranormal.
Right. Right. I can only imagine how many people have come and gone, as well, just from that time period on, and
Sure.
it's just incredible all that energy. And then, yeah, visitors have reported seeing like lights mysteriously turning on, especially on the house's third floor. I kind of wonder if that's where one of the spirits like fell out the window, or something happened.
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably. Yeah.
um, orbs and balls of light around the roof. That's interesting. Unexplained cold spots, voices, footsteps. Doors have been known to lock or unlock without explanation, so similar to the bathroom.
Yes. The non-believer bathroom.
Yeah.
Don't get locked in there.
Yeah. And then, as of today, Ferry
Oh, why?
Plantation House embraces its ghost stories with night tours, paranormal events, educational programs, especially in the fall. They let visitors explore the grounds. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool. I think when you have a location that offers itself up for investigation, I think that very definitely there's stuff happening there.
Oh, yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Ryan, I'm curious in your research if you came across Hollywood Cemetery.
Oh, did you come across
Oh,
that?
so yeah. So one of the things that I was looking at, it's actually considered residual, but a lot of people have like mixed thoughts about the Hollywood Cemetery. But apparently, the cemetery was founded in the 1849, and it's been haunted ever since it was broke ground. And it is a cemetery for Confederate soldiers, which obviously we know is always going to have some interred kind of intellectual residual energy. But Hollywood Cemetery is actually known for Richard the Vampire.
Oh, there you
They
go. Okay.
believe that one of the tombs houses a vampire, and it was just packed with like so much lore about like the whole vampire hauntings and like the legend of
Ugh,
vampires and
creepy. That's
whatnot. So I was
creepy.
wondering if yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's creepy.
mean it's so cool though, but like it doesn't really have anything to do with ghosts, but like a vampire energy, absolutely. Eerie lore around vampires, I want to hear it.
Mm.
But apparently, throughout that sprawling cemetery is like lots of ghost stories around how the locals won't go into certain tombs. They won't go into different areas of the cemetery because they're afraid of the ghost of the vampire. So yeah.
Ha- Have either of you experienced any vampire energy before?
I have not. I have not.
Not in a deceased form. I have in the course of my life, and I'm sure anybody listening can probably resonate with this. We in psychic mediumship business, we have met people who aren't actual vampires, sucking blood out of someone's neck, but there is such thing as an energetic vampire.
Oh, yeah,
And
Yes.
that I've yeah, have it.
um unfortunately, it's something that's can happen no matter where, when, or why. So I have experienced someone who has energetically tried to just consume, your energy. So in my book, yeah, I've experienced a vampire. I just haven't had
Yeah.
anybody bite my neck.
No, and anybody out there probably there's more than, I mean, you don't have to be an energy healer to have experience with that. If you've come across anybody that you have said to you just feels like they suck the life out of you, that is somebody who is energetically being very vampiric, right? And whether they're intending to or not. So you have people that intentionally draw that energy because they need it, and those that just don't do it purposefully. It just happens by the nature of who they are, I guess. But we all come across those people that we have said just suck the life out of you. And
Ryan, you agree?
Yes, I 100% agree. I have experienced that on a personal level, and it was not fun. So, yes.
Never been bit on the jugular, Ryan.
No, no, never had blood drawn or anything like that, but definitely had energy taken. So, it's not fun.
not fun.
And I think I actually
No.
called that person an energy
No, it's
vampire before.
exhausting.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So what else do you have, Ryan? Do you have anything else on your list?
So that's what I had for Virginia. Heather, did you tackle Virginia as well?
So I found one. Again, I'm really intrigued with how the whole, like every state that we're looking up, I'm just so intrigued on how this natural progression has happened where everybody names the women in color. And I did find in Roanoke, which is a big famous, town,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
In Virginia, the downtown streets of Roanoke are filled with rich history, lots of festivals down there. But like the history of Roanoke, right? The Native Americans interacting with the English settlers and lots of growth and violence that happened in Roanoke. And there's a lot of mystery, right? Because to this day, they still don't really know what happened to the Roanoke colony, right? I think we have a good clue what happened, but there's no actual historical documentation what actually happened to the men and women that were settling in Roanoke, which I think most people at this point assume they either assimilated into a Native American tribe or they were killed or they died of natural causes because they were all starving and whatever the circumstances were. But it happens that, according to local historian, his name's Nelson Harris, he firmly believes that there is a huge history of in around 1900s where there's the woman in black and people
Woman
have
in
seen
black.
her.
Wow.
Woman in black. Yep, there's a woman in black, and she is in the she's kind of in that Roanoke area. She's mentioned several times in lots of paranormal phenomena. It does appear that, according to this historian, that reports are that she's an apparition and she's dressed totally in a black, long black dress coat, a black dress coat, black dress, black veil covering the lower part of her face, and like apparently her hat is like a turban.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the woman in black is said to follow single men home. All
Oh,
right,
so
Ryan, you're not
killed
allowed
her
to go
one
there.
husband. She's
No,
killed her
no.
one husband, is in mourning, and now looking for the next one. Is that what that is?
Probably.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They don't specifically say that, but they do say that she would follow men home late at night, and there's articles reporting that um that she had the ability to disappear really quickly when she was found, and like there's no clear reasons, but apparently this woman in black has been known to like scratch at walls and whatnot, and it's a complete legend that's being kept alive. So I found that really fun. I didn't know if you had found that, Ryan, but like I'm totally digging finding like the ladies of all different colors here.
And now just a follow-up question, I suppose. So we've talked about how black is the easiest color for them to show, correct? Now, how is
Yes.
it that they're able to show blue, green, white? Is it just a different level of energy that they're able to show?
Different vibration. Different
Okay.
vibration. Yeah. Yeah. So
Mm.
Hmm. That's
Think
interesting.
about think about when you listen to your favorite song on the radio and it grabs you and you're smiling, you're dancing, you're if you're in the car, you're jamming out on the steering wheel, you're Stevie Nicks in the shower, whatever it may be, right? Like, but when you listen to a song that is complete opposite of how you feel, how your energy can go from one space and drop so low into another space. And so that energy is always on a scale.
Hmm.
And we produce energy about how we feel. Like if we feel good, we're going to have a higher energy. If we don't feel well in our bodies or our minds, we're going to have a lower vibration. Well, every vibration carries a frequency, which some human eye can see that frequency or feel the frequency or hear it, however your psychic gifts may work. And that's how it can appear on the range of color scales. And so we always have to remember, when you're in a really bad mood, put your favorite song on, get your vibration up, and then clear your space, because you don't need to sit and spin in that negative energy. So yeah, everything's a frequency, right?
Right.
Everything is a frequency. Our voices, our bodies are creating frequency. Every organ in our body creates a sound. So everything is based off of that, which is going to emit a color, right?
when it comes
So
to spirits that are newly crossed, that have passed, right? and they come back as shadows, or you know, that is because it's harder to get that color to form. It's harder to show themselves in a full apparition and everything. So the shadow or the black is the easiest color to kind of go to. When we have things like what I surmise to be the lady in blue, lady in green, lady in white, all the different ladies we're finding, a lot of them seem to be somewhat residual, but intelligent. And if they're intelligent, they can embody that vibration that they had when they were crossing, right? And so, like the lady in green here in Connecticut, she's known to be a very kind woman. Like she's not nasty in any way. If you see her, she smiles at you. Well, green is a very compassionate color in the healing world. So it's a heart space color. So also happens to be the color of the dress she was wearing when she died. So, those things, I don't know. It's interesting. But when you talk about the easiest forms to color when it comes to spirit, I don't know if it's relating to the actual color of the dress they're wearing, as opposed to maybe what you might see in energy. And not all spirits or apparitions come fully formed as the lady or a man or whatever. Sometimes it's just orbs of light, and those orbs have color too. And the different color relates to the vibration or the frequency of that energy that's coming in. The higher the frequency, the higher the vibration, then the closer to like purples and whites that you get. So yeah. Anyway, what else you got there?
That's fascinating. Heather, was that everything for Virginia that you got?
Oh, there was so much, Ryan. There was a lot. It was, I mean, there are lots of stories. Did
Yep.
you happen to get the Gadsby Tavern Museum in Alexandria? That was haunted since the 1700s, right?
No, but that sounds fascinating.
Did you see that one? Yeah. Apparently at the Gadsby Tavern in Alexandria, um, there's reports since the 1700s of a young woman who died after her voyage. Came into the tavern. It was considered a colonial tavern. It was tied to a lot of, secrets, I guess, and whatnot. And she arrived from a voyage, and she used a secret identity, and stayed in room 8. And she is said that if you go to St. Paul Cemetery, which is not, I believe, close to this tavern, that you will see her presence. And they claim that she is residual, with some intelligent element. Because it's a repetitive sighting, people are seeing that, so that makes it residual. But there are some people who have extrasensory development where they can feel her.
Oh, wow.
So she must have some intellectual a little bit, because residual tends not to have anything but sight. There's generally not like a feeling that comes with residual energy just because it's repetitive. But people have reported that she she kind of carries on with like some heavy energy, and people can feel that. People also report at this tavern that they hear the footsteps going across the old wood floors, which is so cool. Confusing sometimes because you're like, who's up there? But like cold spots, and people do sense this woman. Of course, they didn't give her the lady in black or the lady in white. It feels very tragic. And hence why I think there's so much secrecy around her, and that lore of, being secretive. Nobody knew her real name and all that kind of good stuff. But there was a lot. There's the Battleship Wisconsin, right? That back in 1944, there's a lot in Norfolk. Like the Battleship of Wisconsin has massive ghost stories because it's a World War II ship. It's a World War II made on the Wisconsin too, just so you know. Not a big fan, but very cool to like probably capture footsteps and voices. And obviously, being on a ship, there's lots of mechanical noises that are not. So the reports are there are mechanical noises, which you would get because it's a ship, but these are mechanical noises where the ship shouldn't be making those noises anymore. So there seems to be a lot of interactive and repetitive, um, amplified sounds happening on the Wisconsin. And just the metal alone, right? Like the metal alone is a conductor. So you're sitting on water, which is a conductor, and then you have metal, which is a conductor, which is probably amplifying, um, just everything going on in that ship. And seeing how it was served in World War II, it's going to have, you know, some great stories that probably haven't even been published.
That's a good point.
Did you see the Martha Washington in? Yeah, Martha Washington in. She was Yankee Sweetheart, right?
Hmm.
And lots of phantom horse sounds at the Martha Washington Inn because the inn was built and it's in Abingdon. It was built in 1832, so it's full of Civil War ghost stories. Martha Washington was known as the Yankee Sweetheart. So, lots of people say when they go there, blood stains appear
Oh.
That's
where
great.
wounds were like once were.
Hmm.
So that's fascinating. I don't think as a psychic medium, I don't think I've ever been in a location where like you could see a blood pool. I've never seen a blood pool or um an apparition with an actual wound tense, because that's definitely like echoing a tragic, tragedy. But apparently that happens here down at the inn. And people report when you get there, like the energy there just feels really heavy. So
Hmm.
that was quite interesting. So Virginia, again, just that whole corner of the United States just has this such deep, rich history. Like we could be here all day talking about even more stories in Delaware, more stories in
Yeah.
Virginia, DC, right? Um, but very
Brian, did you have
cool.
any from West Virginia that you want to share?
Oh yeah. Yep. So, yeah, I do think it's fascinating to know all the things that you found in Virginia, though. That's incredible. I feel like, as you said, like there's so many in all these states. Like we could be spending like a whole half of a year just like talking about all of them. Um, but yes, in West Virginia, I found some information about the Mothman, and I remember years ago when a movie came out in the early 2000s, and I just loved it just because I found it so fascinating. Um, but the Mothman is a legendary creature said to have appeared in West Virginia starting in the mid 1960s, um, and most famously in a town called Point Pleasant. Um, it's described as a tall winged humanoid with glowing red eyes. The Mothman was seen by dozens of residents between 1966 and 1967, often near an old military site known as the TNT area. The legend gained attention after several witnesses claimed encounters with the creature shortly before the collapse of the Silver Bridge over the Ohio River on December 15th, 1967, which unfortunately killed 46 people. Because of the timing, many people thought that the Mothman was either a warning sign of disaster or somehow connected to this event. Over time, the Mothman has become a major part of West Virginia folklore, popular culture. Point Pleasant now has an annual Mothman festival, has a Mothman museum, which would be so cool to go visit, and even has a statue dedicated to the creature. So, whether seen as a supernatural being or misunderstood animal or a symbol, from fear, tragedy, it remains famous and enduring legend. Yeah, when they said that I did read up on that. Some people were wondering if maybe it became popular in the mid 1960s because of the superhero Batman. So that's just a thought going around. Basically, what eyewitnesses saw with the Mothman, usually described as a tall, shadowy, humanoid creature with wings, uh, somewhere between a man and a giant bird. So that's why I was interested in this as well. But basically around.
And they claim that when it flaps its
Yeah,
wings, it sounds like a like thunder, right?
yeah. Yep. Um, I guess the Mothman is around 6 to 7 feet tall, sometimes taller. You never know. Um, the wings are large, bird-like wings, often folded against its back when standing. The eyes is the most famous feature, glowing red eyes. Um, the body is dark gray or black, sometimes described as feathered. Um, the head is often doesn't have a visible neck, but with the head appearing like directly just on its shoulders. And the face usually doesn't have a mouth, nose. Let's see, it says usually no mouth, nose, or ears clearly visible. So the face you can hardly see. But movement wise, um, sometimes it can fly silently, sometimes straight up into the air, and reportedly keeping pace with cars at high speeds. Uh, some witnesses say it feels like seeing a physical animal and more like encountering a living shadow with eyes, which adds to the creep factor. So,
Definitely adds to the creep factor. So when was the last sighting of the Mothman? Was it 1967? Is that what you said, the last sighting?
they said mostly it was sighted between 1966 and 1967. Yes,
So nothing recent.
not that I'm aware of.
Now, I believe there was a recent sighting
Yeah, maybe Heather knows.
uh in 2019, I want to say.
Really?
And the only reason I think I know that is because sometimes I put like, noise on the TV, just like background noise, and I remember Josh Gates doing from Expedition Unknown. We love Josh, uh, doing an episode on the Mothman. And I believe somewhere I read that there was a sighting in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
but don't hold me to that. But I do believe that there was something that caused like a craze to go through again, and it kind of relaunched everybody's belief in the Great Mothman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious because I don't think the Mothman is just relegated to that one area of West Virginia, right? I mean, that's where the statue is, but
Right.
aren't there reports of creatures like the Mothman in other places as well? That was my thought, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that. And I also want to know, when is this Mothman festival? What time of year? And
Exactly.
something we should be road tripping to.
Exactly. Yeah, and then we'll go to the Mothman Museum. So going back to the first question about recent sightings, yes, you are correct, Lisa. It looks like sightings have been found in other places as well. Mother Neff State Park in Texas. That was actually in 2025. There was a sighting in
Oh,
Texas. Um, Other recent, less confirmed encounters include Chicago, 2017, somewhere in Pennsylvania in 2017, and Kane County, Illinois in 2024. So I guess it's really flying around to different states. So, Heather, do you happen to know
It's
when the festival
hungry.
is? Yeah, there you go.
I don't. The internet is our friend.
Yeah, apparently it's held in September.
I just find folklore like that. So, when is
fascinating.
it?
It says September
Did
19th
you
and
find it?
20th.
19th and 20th, September
Yep,
19th and 20th.
yep.
Oh, I can't this year. My son's getting married on the 19th, so you'll have to go without
Ah,
me. You're gonna go.
rats. We'll have
And
to plan.
actually, yeah. So yeah, that's not a good
Yeah,
week.
it says the festival is held the third weekend of September. This year's official date. Oh, that's 2025. Did you find 2026, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it says September 19th and 20th,
Yep.
unless, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Anybody listening from down there, we want to come and visit. We want to go to the Mothman.
And I would be intrigued to hear if any of our listeners have experienced, the Mothman or any of the stories that we told today.
If they visit any of the places that we talked about this week, definitely reach out to us at readytoconnectpodcast@gmail.com. Send us an email or reach out to us through our social media. We'd love to hear it. Well, I think that's wrapping up the Mid-Atlantic states for Haunted America. And next we're going south, right? Going to the south. So until then, let's all stay connected, all right?
Stay well, be well, stay healthy.
Stay warm, stay safe.
Stay warm if you're in our area.
All right. Until next week, we'll get ready to connect.
Thank you for tuning in to Ready to Connect. If you're interested in exclusive behind-the-scenes content, be sure to like, share, and follow us on social media by searching for Ready to Connect Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And for those looking to further support our podcast, consider subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/readytoconnectpodcast. And until next time, get ready to connect.